My name is Sierra Jeter. I'm the curator of Drexciya Into the Deep on view here at Union Hall Art Space in Denver, Colorado, which is on view until May 2nd, 2026. I'm also a multidisciplinary artist and ancestral medicine practitioner. This is all very new. This is my debut curation. I've never done anything like this before. So first of all, it just opened up this new world for me. And I've absolutely loved every single part of it. Yes, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of decisions. There's so much that went into it, but the fact that we've got to work together, Jess and Esther and Sigri, and really learning how to work as a team, which is also new. Working with a supportive team and community was a really big deal for me because I just haven't had a lot of experience doing that in the past. And so as a curator, I'm seeing the only way that these things really come to life is through a collaborative group effort. And I really have come from a lot of experiences where collaboration has been really challenging, or not everybody was, on the same page, or being taught, living in this capitalistic society, I had to do so much by myself and be hyper independent, or at least that's what I was taught from my family, and just seeing how okay, well, that's not sustainable. And that can only get you so far, and just seeing the power of community, and also the way that you all I feel I have a leg up, I think, in terms of the timeline and the tasks and everything that was laid out in the orientation. You all gave me a roadmap to support bringing this together, and I think a lot of that roadmap that you all provided, I probably could have figured it out on my own, but it would have taken a lot longer. So I think the Rough Gems program, it's given me so much, and the framework, especially the framework and the mentorship with Esther and you all as well. This is not your first rodeo. You all, and Sigri as well, you all have years of experience in this arena and have done many successful shows and curation. And I love working with people who have experience and are experts and who I can learn from, because I don't have all the answers. And it's just been really great to learn, and it's all been very new and exciting, and I really have been enjoying just being a student and just learning these new skills, from coordinating with the artist, to designing or collaborating on the design of the feng shui of the space, to doing a lot of it was outreach, to taking my time with what I was envisioning, and so much more I could say. But overall I feel so supported and so held, and I could do, I don't know, I'm just ready. I feel from here I can, this was the starting blocks, and I feel now with this incredible foundation and the relationships that were created through this opportunity, I feel I can just really soar from this. In a more personal way, it is nice to, for a long time, I just felt nobody cared about my my vision or my art or my projects. So I was very woe is me, how come no one seems to care about the story centering Black women and Black people and Black lives. It just seemed something that didn't often receive support in my world, and I think I got kind of negative and jaded for a little bit there, which I think is totally natural. And so like just personally, I've been trying to like reframe that mindset. Like, okay, you know, that can't be totally true. Even though that was like a majority of my experience, you know, as an artist, like in my early 20s, I knew that as an artist, as a curator, as someone within these spaces, like, you know, I knew that this was aligned with like my purpose and what I came here to do. So I wasn't just gonna give up. And so like reframing that mindset, like, you know, Black art does matter. People do care about these stories. People do want to see this. People do, you know, are like the community actually, like I'm actually needed in community. And what I have to bring, and I feel the same way about like every artist and every curator. We all bring something unique. We all bring something that only we can bring to the community, to the arts, to these spaces. So just by like, you know, you all just believing in this vision and in this sacred storytelling, in these artists, just believing in my vision and wanting to support it and make it real, was a huge, what was the word to use? Tangible win. Was really big just for my outlook and my mindsets on like what is possible after like being kind of jaded for a little bit. And so now like my mindsets have completely like shifted in terms of that. And I'm just feeling a lot more confident and empowered. And that, yeah, like my vision matters. Black art matters. And there are spaces for us. And we can thrive in those spaces. What is a curator? A curator is what I've learned just from and I honestly really want to ask this question to like more experienced curators as well and kind of see. But for me as an emerging curator, being a curator, we're cultural stewards. And we have a responsibility to the community to curate and steward culture in the arts and storytelling in a very dynamic environment, for people to engage, reflect, and expand their consciousness through, you know, being in these spaces, witnessing beautiful artwork, experiencing sound and all of these other forms of art that can be presented in these spaces. And I think it's a really big responsibility. And what else? It's also like, you know, being a curator, you're creating an experience. And so we're thinking about how do we want people to feel? What is going to be the first thing that they see when they walk into the space? What is going to be the first thing that they engage with? How are they going to engage with this installation? Where do we need to strategically place that so that the space feels open and safe? Excuse me, where do we need to strategically place this installation so that it can be engaged with in this way so people can walk around it in a circle? For example, Ehime's literary library, how it's like, you know, especially at the opening, I was so happy. I was like, the way just seeing people, the way that folks were engaging with the exhibition, I was like, okay, they're walking around that in the circle. That's exactly how I wanted it to go. And I think that when people see an exhibition, when it's done, I mean, I'm always thinking about like, how do they do that? But I do feel like a lot of people in community are kind of like, they see the finished product and they don't necessarily consider all of the creative labor, visioning, feng shui, so many things that go into actually making that space. And it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like ultimately we are telling stories. There's a couple things coming up, but one, I can be really like strategic and like, wanting all of the details and information. And in a way can sometimes try to control things. Sometimes too much. And so one thing in terms of like my creative practice, it's like, okay, like sometimes I just need to surrender and just trust in my team and just trust in the artists that they're going to show up to the best of their ability and do what they need to do. And also like trusting myself too, that like, I've picked like these are the artists that I picked, like this is the opportunity that I've accepted, and just having just a little more surrender. That's not to say I can't still like, plan and delegate, because you have to do that as a curator, I've learned. But as far as like my creative practice, just like taking my hands off the wheel at certain times. Because sometimes you get like near the end of the project and it's like, okay, there's only so much else that we could do here or add to it. Like knowing when it's ready, trusting that it's ready, trusting that everyone's going to show up and do what they need to do. And that like surrender piece, just like, okay, I can only do so much. Mm-hmm. This was like a really big vision. And when I first had, this vision, I was like, okay, this has to be like a group project, because there's just no way that one person can do this. And I just think, this experience has really taught me just how to work with people in like a healthy, safe, and loving and supportive environment. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, which is something that I just hadn't had a lot of experience. Being in environments where, I was treated poorly or I was being taken advantage of. And so many other, like, I've experienced like a lot of work traumas. I'll just leave it at that. And so that made me kind of like skeptical of certain work environments. And I felt like, in the beginning, I kind of have like my shield up, like, just expecting like, I need to protect myself. I need to protect this, like, to the point of like being a little overprotective at times. And so just wanting to just like have that trust and have that faith in my team, because that's what's needed when working with people. We have to trust each other, right? And I don't know, I'm probably just saying the same things I was saying before. But I think like in the future, like I love the community that has been created from this project, and just learning how to create that, foster that, and build that is definitely something that I see in the future and future projects and future visions. Because like I said, I got these big visions. We're gonna need a whole team. So I'm just learning how to be like a good leader, an inspiring leader, a trustworthy leader and curator through this experience. Yeah, I mean, two huge barriers come to mind. One being just the access to resources, access to like funding where like everyone gets paid. Really simple, because the creative labor that goes into creating these spaces is significant. And so I think there are a lot of like systems and structures in place like this one that can help support emerging curators like myself, just to have like just access and redistributing those resources so we can create these beautiful experiences that do require those resources. Another thing that comes to mind, what I was saying earlier, is just you all have a structure and a timeline of how you all curate exhibitions, because like you guys have done this so many times very successfully. And so you all like sharing that with us was huge. Basically like a blueprint so that we have like the solid foundation of everything, all of the moving pieces that go into curating a successful exhibition. So for me, like I'm very organized. I like having structure and strategy in place. So for just someone like me, that is incredibly helpful moving forward. It's just like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, someone's already created the wheel. Now, like, let's use those structures and like make them better to create beautiful exhibitions. So I think those were two like really big barriers that you guys are addressing and are breaking down through this program. Another artist, he came into the space and he was the only one here, and he really engaged with the work, and he just sat in the reflection space and was just started crying for a long time, especially after seeing Kimber Greenwood's underwater photography, Held in Water. He mentioned he just spent a lot of time just staring at that piece and just reflecting on the sacred storytelling here, and just spent, he was just like, I was just sitting there crying, but I really needed it. I really needed to reflect on those who came before us, and it was really healing for him. And I've had some similar testimonies, just of people that I know in community who like either texted me or sent me a DM. Just a lot of people were like, thank you, like I needed, this has been healing for me. And I needed this, like, and I've had quite a few folks saying like, it's an honor to be in community with you, Sierra. Like we really needed a Black arts exhibition that also honored our ancestors here in Denver. And I think that just based on that response, like this was filling a void, I guess, or something that a lot of people needed, or a lot of Black folks or other folks in the diaspora who connect with the exhibition, that they needed in some kind of way, whether it's like that emotional healing or just the witnessing. So that's one example. With the music, with the sound system and all of that, that's just one of those avenues that like many people have used music to heal themselves or to express themselves in a way that is freeing. And I think when we're living, you know, within these oppressive systems, especially those who come before, we have to find a way to still find that joy and to survive despite the conditions around us that are happening externally. And to just somehow be happy. And for many people, it's listening to music, it's making music, it's making whole new genres of music, it's, you know, taking photos, it's reading books. Like it can be in so many different, that expression can come through in so many different ways. And so I think that having the diversity of mediums here is a reflection of that that's already happening in society. I think something Esther just said to me just in our check-ins, and Esther's been has been a really great mentor, and I'm sort of someone, I have a lot of questions, you know, as you know, so like I'm always gonna be like, so what's this, what's that, okay, how do we do this, and I just remember she said to me, like, it's really one thing that she noticed in me that she's also seen in a lot of artists, because you know she's worked with so many curators and artists, was that, you know, we're so passionate, and sometimes that passion can be a consuming flame and we end up burning out. And I just remember like quite a few times throughout, especially like in the planning phase when we're like planning and doing install and like outreach and all of that before the opening, I found myself in cycles of burnout. Or like I work really hard for like a couple weeks and I'd have to take like, 4 days off for a certain amount of time. I'm like really exhausted. And so Esther has just been a really good mirror throughout this process. It's just like, that has just reminded me of my capacity. And then like, it's really beautiful. Like we need that passion, like we need that fire, but that fire also needs that water, which is the theme of this exhibition, to balance it out. And that water is really just balance and boundaries and just honoring, your emotions and what your body needs, and your intuitive needs. So throughout this whole process, she has just reminded me that a lot. And I think that was just really helpful, just as an artist, as someone who just have a lot of fire, have a lot of passion. And that passion is, but that passion needs direction and those boundaries, energetic ones, so that that flame is sustained for the long term. I'd say if you're applying, just do it. Just do it. And like kind of like what I was saying before, like we all have something unique that, you have something unique about your experience and about who you are that only you can bring forth into the world. And your vision is needed. And I would just say, just go for it. Just reach for the stars and see what happens. And just prepare to be supported in a beautiful, loving environment with an incredible team, who is, just an incredible team full of experts. Just be ready to learn. And then I guess for folks wanting to support the program, even before the Rough Gems, I just thought Union Hall, you all are definitely one of my favorite galleries in the city. Also, like, I know we met previously, and then I also worked with Esther and like all those things, and then like with Soraya's like yoga here, and then also just the exhibitions that you all have done, like featuring like Indigenous artists, featuring, you guys have had like exhibitions like that really hold up the mirror to our society. I think it was the Zoids exhibition last year in the Rough Gems program, on reimagining the future of America. And I just feeling like, this is a space where we can do some radical storytelling, because you all have done it in the past. Like, this is definitely a space where activism and art and like so many things converge. So for me, I was like, okay, that was already making me feel like this is a safe space. I'm probably going off on a tangent now, but yeah, I guess for me, the space is great. You guys have a great team. All women on the team, very important to me as well. I think women are just excellent leaders, and it's wonderful to see us take up space and within the arts and run this art gallery. It's really dope. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something we need more of, and people in this community and beyond should definitely consider supporting. Okay, one sentence. That's so hard for me. I'm like, when preparation meets opportunity. That's a rough gem. Definitely, and I have a few seeds planted, a few ideas planted that I don't feel called to share yet. And I think it's also like, I don't know what I'm doing next. I don't have all the answers, but whatever I do next is going to be really beautiful, and for the community. So, yeah. I don't know.